Says
Now we're
wait
live.
for Europa Weekly. God damn it.
We are live.
Oh,
I hope we're live. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Europa Weekly with Blitz from Finland and Faust from the Low Countries. This week,
hello.
there's a colossal delay on the chat.
Hello.
Okay, right.
Let's see.
That was weird. We're here.
No, it was good. Yeah, it's the first time we're doing something like this. That's
Yeah, it's a calamity.
no, it's great.
It's
We
in the
actually
audience.
managed to.
Magnificent.
Oh,
No, it's great. I just expected some people who are sending us hate mail to show up. Well, it doesn't look like they are.
now the answer to the age-old question: how many internet racists does it take to get a Google Hangout live playing? It's 3 and about 2 hours of work.
Brilliant. So what exactly were we going to talk about this week? Do we have any news?
No, there's nothing news. Yes,
There's
there are
news.
news.
There's
There are
lots of
always
news.
news.
But
Oh, Jesus.
Well, if
Chill
you
out.
told me, I would have looked up some more articles. I'm just here to do the technical stuff.
I
Oh,
actually
yeah.
I have actually closed all my tabs with all the news just before I got home. Fuck.
Good on it.
A classical.
So we have our darkly.
start.
Yeah, don't worry. Okay, so what do we have now? We have our darkly enlightened president of France.
Yeah, what happened? there?
Let me think.
All right, yeah, Mr. Jupiter.
He is legitimately like a techno-commercialist, though.
This
Sure was
guy.
explained this to me. No, he's like legitimately some kind of Nick Land accelerationist deal.
Yeah, he was.
City life.
Who said it that Macron would literally consider sterilizing black people as long as it would help the French economy?
Did he say that?
No, he didn't
No, I
say
don't
that,
think
but I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because this is probably one of those thoughts he has that is way too deep for journalists to understand.
The guy literally worships GDP. That's what Pusher was saying, and the guy has no other foundations of any kind other than GDP. So
Could he be autistic? Could he be like
Almost
autists
certainly.
have something they obsess over in a completely illogical way, like trains or fidget spinners? That this guy is really literally autistic about maximizing the GDP, and he's
I
like
thought he was a faggot, so he has to sort of
with the mommy GF, yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, he does have issues. That's for sure.
Oh, he's
Right.
who blamed. Oh, here it is. He blames Africa's calamities on civilizational problems and black women having 7 to 8 children. Now that's racism if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, but that's kind of an acceptable degree of racism. You know, you wouldn't let him on here with this. No, he's legitimately no, seriously, he's legitimately like a techno-commercialist. He actually does believe that shit. He genuinely wants like global finance capitalism to melt away all distinctions between people. Very, very woke. If he was from a lower middle class background, he'd be posting on that secret forum those guys have and telling us about how you know we're retards and such. He'd be hanging around with Nick Land, calling us LARPers and saying the alt-right is gay.
The alt-right is implicit, isn't it?
It's very
Yeah.
implicit, yes.
Anyway, I thought the whole idea of this stream was that we were going to have some questions from the audience for you guys. So let's see if the
We
chat
were.
has anything to say.
I see Barbute. I see Barbute in the.
Yes, he has
chat.
issues joining.
Oh, it's all technical issues here today, folks. It's nothing but technical issues.
Don't worry, this is normal.
Yeah, technology is leftist. It's a leftist conspiracy theory where the white man has no chance to succeed in this
The
technological
only solution is to
world.
be like Varg and LARP in the woods with your 3 autistic children.
Isn't it?
Doesn't he
Isn't
have
it though?
Doesn't he have 5 by now?
Oh, who can know?
Still though, Varg's a pretty good guy. He does not have some good issues, but like his hatred of Christians is just LARPy beyond the point of reason.
Varg, the thing about Varg, I kind of see myself in him, in that he went to prison for like putting shot shells through the window of McDonald's and
Jesus.
implying he did arson and also a murder. And for all his time in prison, he never seemed to repent or recant. He seemed to bunker down and come up with reasons to do this shit in the 14 years he was in prison.
Do you know 2 funny stories about Varg? The first thing is he was arrested in possession of several thousand rounds of ammunition and 2 firearms and about 120 kilos of explosives. He was accused of intending to blow up an Antifa hangout in Oslo. Or was it Bergen? That was when he was arrested. And at some point, he actually managed to escape from prison a few years after he was in there. And within 2 days, he had himself a Jeep, an AR-15, several thousand rounds of ammunition, and a food supply to last a month. Within 2 days.
What?
He's some real life Norwegian Rambo. Hey,
Hold on,
can
what
we
the fuck? I don't.
shout
I
out
think
to
you're
our
pulling.
main
I think
boy?
you're shit talking.
I read this in Wikipedia, so it must be true.
Christ. Oh my god, it's true. Search his house for. I only thought he was arrested on that. I didn't know he actually had the explosives.
Oh yeah, no, the guy was arrested with.
Oh Jesus Christ! It is true. Okay, it's 3,000 rounds of ammunition, which isn't a huge amount, but
Oh, that's
you get,
quite a lot.
if you had a hunting club.
Yeah.
Fuck.
No, Varg's a pretty badass guy. It's like the Norwegians take their shit really hardcore. Breivik, Varg.
Yeah, they have pretty foul tempers up there.
I noticed there's an excessive amount of Norwegians for their population within the alt-right. I've noticed like about 50 of them in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
There's like 4 million of them.
No. I like his attitude. He seems to hunker down, though. You know, if I was put to prison, I'd be pretty fucking mad. And he was pretty mad too. He's never apologized for anything he did.
No, but then I think he probably is a genuine psychopath.
Oh yeah, totally. It's probably good he's off in the woods. He can reclaim virgin forest.
See if we can get him on this live stream. Tweet at Vargvikernes.
If you guys want to join, you should drop the invite in the chat. Hold on, so people can join and ask questions live on air. Or you can ask questions in the chat.
Let's see if we can get it.
I have it. I'm dropping the link in the chat right now if you guys want to join.
Yeah.
There we go.
There are people sending us hate mail over the Proton mail, by which I mean people sending Pusher hate mail about me, and I expect them to show up.
Oh, it's because you're not white, right?
Yes, I'm not white. Everyone here except all the hosts of Europa Weekly are now from outside the Hajna line.
I know.
So it's no whites.
I'm the only white person here.
Yeah, you're the only one. I am putting down my chopsticks and and I spat out my yak milk because I was so offended when people called me white.
Honestly, let's get into the whole white thing. Like, that's an American idea. I don't like it anyway.
No, it's a American construction that works in the sense that there's white people and black people. No, it's very dumbed down. And, it's sort of deracinated where there's no Germans, there's no Englishmen, there's no Dutch. They're all just one mess of a people, and they are collectively referred to as white.
Yeah, and it
by
makes
their skin color.
Yeah, it's a necessity.
Yeah, it makes sense when you define yourself along the lines of an enemy. Like, I'm white in regards to a black guy, but remove all the black guys, and I'm Dutch.
It's better to say European, just like Reinhard always does with is it Identity Europa that he's part of?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That they should identify as Europeans, not as white people, because white people is too, how should I say, diffuse. It's terminology.
Oh god, we're getting posted on Britpol. Fuck.
Oh god.
Oh no, god damn it.
Show sucks.
I already
They're all
invited a
tongue
whole bunch of
retards,
edgy
but-
National Socialist teenagers.
Oh boy.
Is that on
Oh, why
4chan
did I
or
think this was a
8chan?
good idea?
I don't know. It was your idea.
We'll have some shit posters on, and they'll call us fags, and we'll call them fags back, and it'll be wonderful. And that's how, we build the bridges here within the alt-right.
I thought we built
Bridges, not
ovens.
walls. That too. Bridges towards ovens.
Now, guys in the chat, come on. I know there's only 12 of you, but come on, ask some questions.
I'm going to be pretty fucking mad if the people calling me a potato nigger don't show up.
You're a potato nigger.
Mostly because
there you go.
Okay.
How many potatoes does it take to starve an Irishman?
None.
0. Classic.
Yes. No, I don't know any good Finnish jokes, unfortunately.
No, it's the... Fuck. Even I don't even know any good Finnish jokes. Our existence is devoid of humor.
Wait, but you have all of the memes.
Yeah, you draw these stupid cartoons of
Yeah, we
pedophile
do.
bears and such.
Yeah, exactly. It's because everybody's like an island of one, sitting alone in front of their computer, just smashing their Finnish hands against the keyboard, and sometimes something good pops out. It's the only connection we have to the outside world is through our memes. Nobody talks, nobody sees each other in real life. We just go on the internet and post stuff. It's kind of like that experiment that somebody said that do you know this experiment where they say, hypothetically, if you had infinite monkeys for an infinite amount of time writing infinite combinations of letters into a typewriter, and eventually the entire works of Shakespeare will come out. Finland is kind of like that monkey experience, in the sense that we have the entire population on their keyboards constantly, and that's why we produce all these memes. We're proof that it works.
We have some very interesting questions from the chat. The first one...
Finland makes me very optimistic about the future of the internet, though. The future of industrial society. I mean, when people talk about the internet, it is a very introverted country with, by all metrics, a pretty fucked up country. Very high rates of depression and suicide in Europe on average. Yeah. But you got, they produce a lot of memes, and their society seems to function. And I don't know. They seem to produce very upbeat memes. I haven't seen a pink pill from Finland, So
I'm actually...
It makes me happy.
We have 2 questions from the chat. The first one is from 2016, and it asks, do you expect Trump will be elected?
Good one, mate.
That election convinced me that I'm the smartest person in the universe. I don't know how anyone could look at a poll with 38 points weighted towards a Democrat and only Hillary 12 points ahead and not think Trump was going to win. That's what inspired me with the arrogance to talk shit in a microphone for hours on end.
What and the world was so heavily improved.
I remember spending several weeks up until the election just going through those poll numbers over and over again, checking like what's the bias, what's the skew on this, and how trustworthy are these numbers. Okay, and the closer I got to the election, the more certain I became that Trump was going to get elected. And I made actually a large like PowerPoint that I showed some friends in school that just shows like, oh yeah, Hillary doesn't stand a chance. This was in October, and everybody looked at me like I was some kind of crazy person, because they were looking at the numbers and seeing like Trump behind by 10 points or something, and thought that I was a loony, or that I was just so super racist that I was deluding myself into seeing Trump victory.
Did you win much money off it? Is gambling
No,
legal in Finland?
that's
Oh,
just it.
fucking retard.
I never gambled any on it because I was just doing it because I wanted to be right. I wanted to feel like I got it right. But one of my friends who was listening was like, all right. He put 100 euros on Trump when the odds was 1-4, and he won 400 euros, so he was 300 up. And the day after election, he came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, thanks, Blitz. That's great. I just made 300 euros. Thanks for the tip."
Jesus, I paid for half a year's college.
I actually made about 500 euros betting against the market on Brexit.
No. Okay,
Sold
are
all
traps
after
gay? Yes.
Only if they have a feminine penis.
Okay, very good. What about dilation? Do you have to help him dilate? Faust?
Okay, no,
Do you know
never
what that
mind.
is?
Never mind. Traps are gay. Never mind. I didn't say anything. I heard. Yeah, what that is. I don't think we should discuss it.
This is like the Joe Rogan experience, except we have even less interesting guests. This is the last time I ever trust you people for anything.
No, it's okay. It's we're Europa Weekly, all right. We don't need content. We don't we don't need news, and we especially don't need interesting guests. That's what this podcast has been from the ground up. Damn it! This is what Arminius envisioned when he left it in our hands. That it would be two non-whites driving this driving this podcast off a cliff with Pusher involuntarily stuck in the back seat screaming.
Show purpose for queers.
Well, if you guys want to go over some news, I can pull up a website.
No, yeah, we have news, but I was hoping to save news for Sunday.
Oh, right.
Disastrous.
Otherwise, we're gonna news cuck ourselves because who believes that anything's gonna happen between now and Sunday? Nothing's gonna happen.
Nothing.
Probably not.
In the before. What?
And chat's completely boring. Chat, you're terrible.
Chat, I hate you people. What the fuck? They're all talking about Britpol. Stop inviting Britpol. I hate those fucking people.
Aren't they like the most kosher guys on all of the chants? Just those Britpol.
But yeah, it's become that.
Oh fuck! I'm glad I was never part of that. It sounds absolutely cancerous.
The Ukrainians
is Estonians here. I explicitly asked for some Estonians to email us or message me on Twitter because they are well over like 10% of our fucking audience, and I have no because it's still 5 o'clock there. But holy shit!
So what you're saying is we should carry on for at least another 5 hours?
Yeah, hello, EM. How are you doing? Okay, he just showed up.
No, this is Barbute.
Oh, hello, Barbute.
Oh, that's a familiar
voice. Your initials.
I may have fucked something up. I would like to reiterate to everyone listening and all the panelists that I am utterly and totally inept with any and all technology that does not involve purely mechanical pieces.
Huh.
And fishing rods, of course.
Well,
that was the weather.
Well, so now we have another non-white to join the stream.
Nice. Perfect.
Yes, Tengri be praised.
So, the chat continues to remain terrible, but one of my Dutch guys has apparently joined, and he's talking shit about the Ura Linda book. So that's fantastic.
Awesome.
The what?
It's this book about how the Frisians are the progenitors of all European culture.
Isn't it fake? Yeah.
It's supposedly fake, but it involves the Finnish and the Magyar for some weird reason. Like
Naturally, Yeah, I can imagine those three people: the Celtics, the or I'm sorry, what was the word you used for the people? Frisians, the Magyars, and the Finno-Ugric peoples being the progenitors of the European race, because why not?
There's some stuff in there about Finnish wizards, so I'm imagining they read the Kalevala.
I thought that was only written in the 1800s.
Yeah.
No, Finnish wizards are very. Finnish magicians are quite widely known.
Yes.
Reviewed, I'm sorry, I can't take your magic advice seriously after your failure to categorize WB8s.
I did not fail.
Well, you were clearly unfamiliar with one
it
of the
was
greatest
just
wizards of the 20th century. All he manifested.
No, I'm not. I am not unfamiliar with W.B. Yeats. I do take as a direct personal insult.
Barbute here is our go-to shaman and knower of all
Esoteric
everything
knowledge.
I believe, who has the proud owner of his own personal grove in the dark forests of Finland, which I visited, and afterwards, like after I was in that grove and touched that tree with the face on it, you carved a face into a fucking tree. After that, birds have been following me around and keep dying around me, and I keep hearing whispers when I try to sleep, and it's quite annoying. So, when you could see to that, fix it.
Consult your local archbishop.
Hold on there. Hold on. No. You should consult your local priest.
The man in the dress will not help you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I'm going to consult my my local priest. Knew I wasn't. The word bad.
What kind of priest?
Yeah, what religion are we?
Yeah, who do we have to burn here?
If he's Lutheran, I'm sorry, that's not going to work.
No, if he's Catholic, it's not going to work.
Yeah, well,
if he's Protestant in any capacity,
fight me, mate.
The filthy papists are not going to do it.
Unless he is an immediate apostolically descendant from Peter, it's not going to work.
Well, that's not this Pope either.
Yeah, Marquis. I get it. Yeah.
Anyway, aren't the Finnish all pagan heathens?
Yeah. Was it 2 crusades or 3 it took to christen Finland? I don't remember. 2 or 3 at least from the Swedes.
Teutons did nothing wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't the Teutons. They were busy in the Baltics. It was the Swedes who brought Christianity to Finland.
Well, wow, the Swedes did something right for once.
No, it's just I don't know if you've seen that meme picture of the old king Gustav Vasa, first king who unified Sweden. There's a picture of him with a quote that says, "Civilizing Finland was a mistake," and that is the consensus today in Sweden as well.
And Finland?
Nah, the jury is out on that one. I'd argue that Finland was never civilized and is still not, and I prefer it that way.
Fair enough.
Seems pretty civilized to me.
Well,
I mean, isn't Finland kind of like, not to be mean, but a pretty dysfunctional society?
Nah, I mean, it's functioning better than Sweden right now, so I would say it's not bad.
Well, that's not exactly a very high standard.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, well, okay, listen to me. Like, Finland is sandwiched between Sweden and Russia. So, we can only compare ourselves to our neighbors, and compared to those guys, it's going pretty well here, pretty smoothly.
All right. I thought you had the slaggiest women in Europe, as well as an astronomical suicide rate. Yeah, I remember reading Finnish girls the sluttiest in Europe.
Now I'm having a hard time believing that, considering what I've heard about campus cultures in other European countries compared to, well, the general
shit's all exaggerated.
Yeah, well, I'm a student in Finland, so I can only compare it to what I've seen here, and it's not. It's definitely much worse in other countries I've seen than in Finland.
No.
You know what occurs
I
to
didn't.
me is that now that we have 2 Finns and a Dutchman here, we could spend a lot of time duck posting.
Oh
We
wow.
could,
Tell me
that's
about
true.
Donald Duck. Red pill me on the DQ.
Donald Duck is the implicit symbol of the white man.
I see. What kind of duck is Donald Duck? Is he like a call duck, domestic and weak, or is he a
I'm,
goose?
I'm afraid he used to be wild, but then he got domesticated by the geese,
Uh,
the evil geese.
Because he looks like a call duck to me. Seriously, what is the cultural significance of Donald Duck? Like how much? Like, this is a huge thing I've seen Euros talk about, but
Yes, it's just the biggest comic book for children, dude. It's like everybody reads it.
comic books. Wow, imagine living in a country with those. Don't they even know they have televisions?
Televisions. Those are the.
Yeah, you can raise your kids with them.
Is that right? I think so. I think that might be the mistake we've been making.
You know it, man.
Yeah, well, I've heard he called the magic box, so I guess it has some peculiar qualities to it. So there should be no adverse side effects to sitting your child in front of the television for 4 to say 8 hours a day and not doing any parenting.
I don't know, man. My parents left me alone when I was a kid, and I used to play with like dog skulls and stuff. It's pretty good.
Ah, fascinating.
Dead birds.
Yeah, kids are
Absolutely.
amazingly resourceful. You know the stupid shit they'll do with like a box or something is incredible.
Well, honestly,
Wait,
Yeah, an empty roll of paper essentially turns into a sword, or a stick turns into a gun instantly. The mind of a young boy it's an endless resource for entertainment. You don't need cheap plastic crap from Chairman Mao's thing on Chownland. What you need is some space and some
a
healthy,
rifle
adventurous spirit to run in the woods.
and a rifle.
That's a bonus.
Yes, I think a rifle is a very good educational tool for children.
It actually is. It teaches them a lot about mechanical engineering.
For example, I don't know. I used to hunt boar when I was 12. Pretty fun. Bastards don't go down easy, I tell you.
Bored? Did you at least do it with a spear, or were you
No.
a true aristocrat and struck it down with a sword on horseback?
I'm afraid I used a shotgun.
Well, that's decadent and modern then.
I know. I'm ashamed.
Am I being trolled right now? Who is posting this? Jussi is posting in the Discord about France turns on Brussels as Europhile. Emmanuel Macron orders EU to reform or face Frexit.
What?
Is this what?
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
I
like, is this a troll? I can't tell anymore. It looks
he's
like a
probably
real.
a Martin O'Leary type who calls the EU an evil empire because it doesn't let you fucking pump your fucking beef
Like,
full of fucking soy.
Do you remember that talking point that Pusher likes to use, that people don't integrate into a supermarket? That being a wholly consumerist society means that nobody will ever integrate into the culture.
That's
And
a
here's
plan.
Emmanuel Macron a few weeks ago saying Europe is not a supermarket. See signaling.
Like
here
he
to
said
us.
this back in. Hang on, yeah, I think that's from months ago, isn't it?
It's June 22nd.
Okay.
Well, Macron did say that he wanted European reforms. That much is true.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone says that. There's no one who can defend the EU in its current state. It's not something you can do. It's kept alive by sheer inertia, as well as how profoundly, like.
Let's
It's
talk
not-
about that. Why do the Americans support the EU? I don't understand.
Because I don't know what it is. I mean, they seem to think that it follows like their system there, where you have, you vote for like the representatives, the senators, and the congressmen, you know. Then there's like the High Court or Supreme Court. You don't vote for them, I guess. And they seem to think that it follows that. I think what really gets me and everyone else is that it's not possible for to put forward legislation. They have no legislative initiative. If you're just some fucking guy writing letters to Brussels, you have the equal ability to pray to forward laws as an elected official.
Yes, because the European Parliament is just a goddamn clown show to keep the retards who believe in democracy satisfied with this supranational, essentially administrative chaos that threatens to consume all of Europe into the dark underbelly of French-style bureaucracy managed by the most incompetent nitwits who didn't make it in local politics.
Well, it's the old story, isn't it? Heaven is wine made by the French, food made by the French. The women are Norwegian, and the managers are German. And in hell, the food is British. The women are British. The food is German, and the managers are French.
Yeah, there are many iterations of that particular joke.
Yeah,
and
as someone who's in hospitality, I can say, do not touch Nord women. It's a funny meme, but stay away.
Why?
Maybe if you're in, I don't know, they're just fucking frigid bitches. I mean, if you're in some kind of nigger country like France or something, where like blonde hair is uncommon, I guess you could fall for it. But
it might just be that, statistically, white women don't like to sleep with non-whites, so that might be a problem.
Actually,
the problem. Anyways.
Yeah, but that joke actually brings up a good point, that if you want the best of everything, you can kind of do a tour of Europe and pick and choose bits in here and there. But like, you can have the Swiss running the goddamn railway lines, or alternative to the Germans. You can have the French and the Italians making food and wine, and have the English make the pop music, and the Dutch the jokes or something.
The Dutch the jokes, that'll work.
Yeah, I mean, but when you try to kind of put everything together in a very underhanded way, like just put all of Europe together and expect that it's going to work.
Well, basically, that's the USA.
Yeah, like everyone, they think that everything works in the way that everyone just brings their best, and forcing all Europeans to work together as one unit is going to bring out the best in everyone. If you have any historical literacy, you'll know that when you put Europeans together, the result is usually war.
Yes. Lovely, lovely war. Mm-hmm. Seriously, I genuinely think we still have the 30 Years' War to solve, and the First World War.
Now, the 30 Years' War, well, there's bits and pieces there, but the religious issue, I think, was solved with that war. However, the resulting issues from redrawing the map in shall we say, an interesting way, with the Treaty of Westphalia, did produce about 200 years of continuous conflict. And when you put into that, makes all of the colonial holdings and the Europeans bickering over those, the result is more conflict. But yes, what's absolutely true is that the First World War is, even though the last people who were alive during that war are getting really old now.
They're dead. They're all dead. The people who actually fought.
Yeah, the people who actually fought. Yeah,
people who actually fought are all dead.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a dead war, but the ramifications of that war and how the excuse me, how the aftermath and all the political changes, that discussion is far from over. I mean, it's ridiculous, utterly, totally ridiculous to think of any kind of an end to history because the Cold War has ended when there's a 100-year-old war that's still kind of nagging at people's thoughts and still directing policy and simple blatant lies about and pieces of war propaganda from the last century are still toted around today. So
well,
European history is
the Danzig question, the Alsace-Lorraine question, the Flemish question. They all have to be solved.
No, I think they've all been knocked out of people.
Can you red pill me on the Flemish question?
They're Dutch, but they're really being tsundere towards us.
Oh, right, the Belgian group of Dutch. Right. What about the German-speaking group in Belgium?
There's like 14,000 of them. They barely matter.
How many?
14,000.
Oh, that's much smaller than I had anticipated.
Yeah, it's like the tiniest sliver of German territory that they took. You guys, don't you have Karelia to retake?
Well, it's mainly depopulated, though.
Yeah, it's let me put it to you this way. Let's say that some years back, a really, really fat, angry, ugly Russian man who rides into your living room on a donkey. He vomits in your flower vase and then raids your fridge for food. Takes out the cake, nice cake that you baked for yourself for a party for tomorrow, and then he proceeds to eat bits of it and then use some of it for other various activities. Would you like that cake back the next day?
As a matter of principle, yes.
Yeah. It's land, dude. What?
No. It's land, yes, but
I would use it in some kind of way to fuck over the Swedes.
Well,
in this metaphor,
if there was a way to take back Karelia, kind of isn't, and make the Swedes pay for it, I'd be all for it. But taking it back would cost such a colossal amount of money that it would bankrupt this already bankrupt nation twice over.
Yeah. We already have
there is dead.
Yeah, there's nothing there. It's like land is nothing without the people that lives on it. It's a nation is organic, and it's organic through the people. So when the people inhabit the land, it becomes part of the nation. So Finland does not technically exist in Karelia anymore because the Finns have all left. They all fucked off during the war.
Some 600,000 people had to be forcibly relocated.
Now hold on, I want Northern Ireland back because it has Brian Boru's final resting place there. Is there nothing? Were Finns never Kangs?
No,
there was a great big Finnish city, actually one of the largest cities of Finland. Before it was lost to the Russians, it became known as Lenin. Sorry, I'm mixing things up. It's known as Viborg, and it was it's a medieval city, and the Swedes built quite a large castle there, and it was an important part of the Finnish infrastructure and railway network. But the way it's been handled, I guess it could be compared to having your daughter raped and mutilated and murdered, and then you're asked that would you like her to sit at your dinner table every night instead of having a dignified burial.
Viborg was the third largest city in Finland before the war, and after we lost it, it now has. I'm looking at the census data, says it's just below the 80,000 people there living, and they're mostly Russian.
Yeah, it was a big destination for a lot of the people who got the ethnic cleansing treatment in the Soviet Union. So people from all over Siberia and Central Asia were forcibly moved there and then molded into the stock population of Russians.
Fascinating. Literally shot.
Yeah, well, they weren't dead. They were just ethnically cleansed. They stopped being whatever they were and became working class. That was the Soviet Union style of ethnic cleansing. The American version is that they stopped being white and stopped being German or Lithuanian, whatever, and become middle class. It's just the difference between communism and capitalism, whether you become working class or middle class when you're the little worker ant unit of the society.
So one thing I don't know very much about Finnish history is how you became independent in 1917.
We just declared independence.
Well, not exactly. We did declare it, yes, but since Lenin had been in Finland and Lenin knew quite a lot of Finns, the Finnish government, I mean, Finland had been an autonomous part, quote unquote, autonomous part of the Russian Empire. And when the Russian Empire went kaput with the revolutions, the Finns asked Lenin if we could be independent. And Lenin, being a Leninist Marxist and very much a Marxist, knew very well that there was a large communist bloc in Finland, and that what would follow was an inevitable communist revolution in Finland. So Finland would obviously join the Soviet Union, but managing and administrating Finland would have been something that the newly found Soviet Russian government didn't really need to or want to do. So the Finns asked Lenin if we could be independent and leave the Russian Empire. Lenin gave permission. And thus the Republic of Finland was formed. It was originally supposed to be a kingdom. We had a German guy who was supposed to be our king, but then Germany went ahead and signed a little treaty in Versailles, and that didn't fall through because we wanted to be like Sweden, of course, but no kings for Finland.
The Swedes have a French king.
Yeah, that's true. I think as far as kings
they have
go,
an aristocratic king. They're kind of their own class.
Yeah, I mean, as far as kings go, you can do probably a lot worse than a German.
Some more of the politics in when Finland became independent that's important to note is that we had a government both with the red Social Democrats and the so-called white conservatives. And during the Tsarist Russia regime, because the Tsar was an authoritarian, the Social Democrats, who had always been Marxists, have been striving for Finnish independence as a socialist republic, while the conservative whites part of the government was always in favor of being part of Russia. Now, when the Soviets took over in Russia, the places quickly changed in the Finnish government, and suddenly it was the Social Democrats who now went, oh no, we don't want to become independent anymore, and then it was the conservatives who said, no, we have to become independent ASAP right now, and this divide could not be mediated through any discussion. So when the conservatives saw that the socialists were not going to discuss this one and were getting their weapons, and political violence had already been escalating for a year in Finland, with murders and assassinations and the beatings becoming more commonplace, the conservatives of the government in Helsinki packed their bags and quietly left to Vasa on the west coast, and wrote their Declaration of Independence on the 6th of December 1917, and that was the same day just by coincidence, the Reds in Helsinki decided to seize power and declare the Soviet Socialist Republic of Finland, and then you have on the same day the whites and the reds declare war on each other. The reds mobilizing and seizing control of Helsinki, while the whites consolidating in the north and the west coast.
Yes,
that is fascinating, because that's the complete opposite of Ireland, that it was an ideological split. In Ireland, it was 300 years of non-stop LARPing, with ideology as a second thing. Like, ideology would be something to bait Napoleon into invading Ireland with or whatever. That's incredible.
Yeah, now,
that's really fucking weird.
The war that we had then was, I mean, it's still politicized today. The Reds are still butthurt that they lost, and the war has a couple of different names used for it, like a bit like the American Civil War. I mean, some people use the war between the states or the war of northern aggression. Well, in Finland, it's generally known as the Civil War. Or the People's War, but it doesn't mean that's not a commie term. It's just a weird Finnish quirk. But some use the word the War of Freedom, or some more edgy guys like to use the term Red Rebellion.
Yeah, that's how you signal really what your politics are. That's a big way in Finland to scout what somebody's political alignment is to see which word they use to describe the independence war. I prefer the Freedom War and the Red Rebellion, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I think the Freedom War or the War of Freedom, it kind of, that's exactly what it is. And the war was divided into Reds and Whites, and the Whites got help from the Germans, and that's how kind of the official Finnish military got started. We sent some guys over to Germany to receive military training, who would then come back and train Finns as officers. So and in fact, the Germans did send a contingent of troops to fight on the White side.
Yeah, this was at the end of the war. So 5,000 German soldiers landed in Hanko in southern Finland, and they opened up a new southern front in the war. And by that time, it was already just a mopping up operation of like.
It was a quite a nasty war. So 30,000 people and 6,000 Russians died.
And 6,000 Russians. So,
hang on. There's a question chat from Saga. Okay, carry on. Finish.
Just one last point is that after the war there was of course quite a number of prisoners taken, and Finland was quite a poor nation. Industry and agriculture had been neglected. So what happened was that quite a lot of people starved to death on camps, and the Reds are still very much butthurt that. Their great-grandfathers didn't get enough to eat or died on a camp. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that, but it's done brazenly without any acknowledgement of what would have happened to the White side had the Reds won in those camps for prisoners of war. And I mean, we kind of had the right idea. I mean, there was this recent controversy about a coin. There was a picture of the coin was shooting prisoners in this particular war, and they kind of had the right idea of how to deal with Marxists, which is line them up next to a pit and give them a nice little shot in the back of the head and then burn them, because the way to actually deal with Marxists is to kill them with fire before they lay eggs. But the trouble is that in Finland the Marxists had already laid eggs, quite a lot of them, so we have an infestation in the national superstructure, and it hasn't gone away since. So we have a residual leftism popping up here and there.
But it's true to note that Finland was the most right wing and the most it worked the best just after the Civil War, because so many Reds had bit the dust. It's just you can compare leftists to weeds, basically. That to who's breathing so loudly?
Good question.
Oh, right. It's sort of like weeds that they keep popping up continuously, and sooner or later they'll just take over the entire garden. But if you just weed out all the weeds in the entire garden. For a while, you'll have a really, really nice garden. But it's a continuous process. Like every generation should have its own freedom war.
One last question about Finland. Is it true that your Air Force still uses a blue swastika as a symbol?
That is true, yeah. Yeah. We had a military parade here recently in Helsinki, and the Air Force marched down Mannerheim Street, this main street in Helsinki, proudly holding their swastika banner up with a whole company of Air Force cadets marching behind it, and the president being there and waving to it. It was great. It was absolutely amazing. You can't see that anywhere else in Europe.
Okay, hello to Martin Eichmann. Who are you, and where do you come from?
How's it going? I'm from the UK. How you guys doing?
Okay, Martin, your microphone is really, really low.
One second, let me just fix it, and I'll be back.
All right.
Well, whilst he's fixing that, let's answer Saga's question from the chat. With you guys not liking Spencer's "Let's all be white" ideology, what are your thoughts on pan-Germanic and pan-Slavic movements from the last century?
Well, I mean, Slavs are one race. That makes sense. Germans are one race. That makes more sense.
Are we a racist chat, or are we a nationalist podcast?
Well, why not both?
I mean, I think it's. I don't think they have. I think they're too diverse to be a nation state. Frankly, I mean, Germany has to have this big federalistic system, and Yugoslavia, even with that, still fell apart.
No, pan-Slavic is probably too big and too divergent, but honestly, like, I'm pretty okay with the idea of joining the Germans if it was the Germany from before World War One.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what happened in the unification of Germany. Is that Prussia, the leading German state? I mean, there were many German states. Bavaria was a German state, and it's a as far as I know, those are two opposing, not necessarily opposing, but two different cultural forces working within the Germanic race, or the German race, and it was the Prussians who united the Germans into one nation of Germany, and there was an element of ethnic homogenization, and some people in Germany really apparently didn't like that. So, in regards to what of course happened in the Second World War, the preceding that, it was kind of Germany scraping together all the German people in Europe. So I think it's, in terms of the Germans, they're so concentrated, it might work. At the moment, I'm not so sure. And as for the Slavs, no. How are you going to? Because you'd have to break up Russia, because Russia is not an monoethnic nation. Russia has many ethnic groups, despite the legacy of Soviet ethnic cleansing. So
one thing I gotta say is that what was done to Germany by Prussia makes me really fucking blackpilled about the EU. Like, for example, in 1914, the Bavarian regiments under Prince Albrecht were pretty pissed off about being forced to defend Prussia from the east, and whereas within 50 years they had completely surrendered that, and eventually sort of, it became German.
Bavaria is still,
That's what
Bavaria is still something of an identity of its own, more so than other parts of Germany.
It is, but my point being is that people are so fucking malleable. Holy shit. Now, granted, Germany being invaded and cooked on a massive level probably influenced that, but Jesus Christ, that makes me really blackpilled about what happened in 50 years.
All right, lads, is this any better?
Massively better.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much for taking the call. Just want to say, yeah, good job on Europa Weekly. I used to listen to Fash Britannia, which was always awful. They were pretty autistic, not in a good way. But yeah, the main reason for calling in is what the fuck have you guys been saying about 5PT?
5PT, I haven't read it at all because, frankly, I'm not interested in it.
Look,
It
we're
sounds
not-
like fucking Jewish shit.
Yeah, we're not going to become a fucking diaspora, dude. Come on.
Guys, okay, all right.
It's not going to happen.
Will you allow me to make the case for 5PT?
Okay, you can make the case.
Yes.
All right.
I have no idea what the case is, so take your time.
My view of 5PT is that it's the backup plan. So I think 5PT essentially makes the case of what do we do if the normies never wake up, and that essentially things just get worse and worse and worse to the point of collapse, and then the white people have not made they've not got a tribal kind of group in place to I should have really thought. I just got back from work, so apologies for me fucking this all up. But I see. So obviously, we're working towards gaining political power, changing things, waking up normies. But if the normies don't wake up, we don't get any political traction, and we literally just get nowhere. Then 5PT is essentially creating communities so that in the event of A, a collapse, or B, that whites just become an absolute minority, then we've got something. So yeah, so I'm not saying don't work towards the other stuff, but 5PT I think is worth pursuing.
What's the end goal of 5PT?
I have one
don't
personal
understand
question
it.
for you now, and I'm
Sure.
not trying to be combative here, but how rooted are you? Like, how many hundreds of years do you go back in the current province that you're in at the moment?
No, I'd completely take that on board. I mean, like, I've been moving all around England, and without doxing myself, my family's. But what I'm saying about 5PT is, 5PT doesn't mean that I need to, white people all need to move to France or all need to move to Germany. Stuff. You can follow the 5PT within your country. And I mean, because you don't, if you get a few thousand like-minded people together within your country, essentially it's saying like for instance, how you would implement it in the UK is you get 1,000 alt-rightish type people, and you all decide to move to Wales, kind of similar to what the Libertarians did with New Hampshire, and then you're able to control that position, and then if if everything turns into London and fucking Birmingham, or Bradistan or whatever, then at least you've got this region, and then you can you have that as a base, and then you can kind of like rebuild and kind of grow out of that area.
No, I either live
problem
here or I die here, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that, to me, seems that that's only really viable in very highly scaled in very scaled up countries, very dense countries. Like maybe that would work in the UK or the Low Countries, but those are frankly like the Bangladesh of Europe. And enough people here for an ideology-based community. Like, for example, if you think back to Northern Ireland and the IRA, what word will I use? The IRA, I'll say fucking heroes at the beginning and total fags at the end. But you look at them, that was not an ideological operation that the nominal terrorists were running. They were all met up in a bar saying, hey, not the Brits either, but they were all friends beforehand. Whereas when you seem to start with an ideology and building communities from there, as far as I know, that has quite literally never ever worked. And I frankly don't see the alt-right being the first to do it. It's sort of putting the cart before the horse.
Well, I mean, you see the groups in like the pool parties, related to TRS in America. So if you imagine, those are growing and growing and growing, and you've got them dotted around America. So essentially, if you a bunch of local pool parts, people that meet up regularly there, could potentially say, okay, cool, let's buy land in our region, even if it's 100 people, even 50 people will probably be enough. Let's buy land in the same region. And then you start to, it's basically survivalism. It's like
you need 500 people for a sufficient genetic variation to not be inbreeding.
Yeah.
Well, inbreeding might be a bit of a long-term concern, but
so you start off with 50 people, and then as things get if you're going by the model where there's a slow collapse and things get progressively worse, and you've got 50 people, you're growing your own stuff, you're working together, you've got a nice safe community, it's fortified, it's not diverse and crazy, and then you start to attract more and more and more people to the point where you've got 500 over the course of a collapse.
Okay, I have a story of exactly this happening in Ireland. In the 1960s and onward, what happened was a bunch of hippies started moving out to around where I live in the west of Ireland, and they put down their, I don't want to call it roots, they built a lot of fucking tents from quite a wealthy background, so eventually they sort of gave up on the LARPier elements and started living in houses. And to this day, they still have a degree of their children still speak with British accents, and they all have to go back. Now, my question is, they had to pay in fines and fees to the local governments, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, and this was for being useless hippies who, lit the odd bonfire. Like, is some kind of pastoralism, how are they not going to...
So,
what's your plan for getting into that?
Well, essentially, you act as law-abiding citizens. You play it really safe. You play it. You're not radicals. You want to keep a low profile. I mean, essentially, you want to potentially join the Conservative Party or join whatever local. In fact, it doesn't even matter. Join the leftist political parties. You want to try and I mean, essentially, you play it, act pretty subversive, and don't make a big deal. And if you get enough people, you can control the local government, which will help with getting planning permission, which enables you to do all sorts of things. So you don't have a website, you don't tell people what you're doing. Keep it on the down low.
Right. But one of the things that you would have to deal with, especially in the US, is forced. Like, you don't have freedom of association, really. Like, you can't just say, I don't want any black people in this community. You'd have to accept them, otherwise you'd be breaking the law. I mean, how do you avoid that?
Well, you keep it out the way. You keep it away from the bigger cities, and I mean, essentially, you try and go as remote as possible. That's why I'm kind of in favor of Wales at the moment, because first off, the land and the houses are cheap, but also that there's not really a desire to want to move to Wales from anyone other than something like this. And if you've got enough people together, you can form businesses and such that can be done remotely. If you've got smart people, you can do web development or whatever to earn money.
You're still staying in the same country, though, right? So that's not really fifth political theory, is it?
My reading of fifth political theory is, I mean, I don't see a necessity to move to a different country. I mean, you've got the option there if shit really hits the fan, and it's you're persecuted to the point where you have to leave. I mean, it's the choice of, do you want your you choose to have your genealogy die out, or you give up your land temporarily, potentially for a few generations. Obviously, I don't want to give up land, but if you have to, it's better that than giving up on your genealogy. But that again, that's like worst case scenario. It may well be that different alt-right movements can create their own small groups in each country, and obviously they'll be connected to each other, and you'll be able to support each other financially and with ideas and meeting and podcasts and such. But there's no reason why each country can't have their own sort of 5PT sort of group or commune type group.
Well, I mean, this seems to be a scale problem. Like, it is simply impossible to have a community of 5,000 in Ireland or Finland or Denmark along ideological lines, basically, or to form a town of that size.
Well, I don't think you'd need 5,000.
That's not true at all. I mean, Estonia has 3,000 in the blue division, I think it's called. We have like 200 guys over here. I'm pretty sure Northfront has 3,000 or 4,000 people.
And how many of those guys are going to come live with you in a town, man?
I don't know, but you could give it a shot.
Well, first off, you wouldn't need that many. You wouldn't need 5,000. You could start with just a few hundred. But let's say you did have 5,000 people that were ready to. I mean, and things are only going to probably get worse unless Hitler comes around on a unicorn, things are only going to get worse from this point. So people are going to get more and more desperate. People are going to be willing to do more and more. So if you got 5,000 ideologically, strong people that have got resources and are willing to, put their money on the line and buy land and uproot their families, then if you got that sort of money and people together, it wouldn't be that much of a problem to move everyone to one area and just buy out everywhere. Especially if you pick an area that's sparsely sparsely populated and the housing prices is cheap.
No,
Okay,
I'm sorry. This is a ridiculous LARP.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
I mean, okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but
I am the king of LARP.
no.
But Jesus Christ.
So what's your objection?
My objection is, for one, you're not going to get people. How do we recruit the number of people with the wealth and the means to move around?
It's already happening. Look at it. Look at look at the so the Libertarians did it to a certain degree with New Hampshire. Obviously not to enough of a degree, but they got on.
Yeah,
on
now
the
they're
route
all
to it.
doing drugs. How nice.
I know, but that that's Libertarians. However, I would say that with the with the Daily Show, they're hitting 100,000 listens. The pool parties are growing and growing and growing. So there's I would say that first off, our ideology with alt-right ideology isn't, you can't subvert it into drugs and stuff. Whereas with the Libertarians, you had that left wing like kind of loophole or vulnerability. So,
but you can subvert it to let's all become Jews and have no homeland.
Or something more relevant.
No.
Let's all be pederasts and sleep with fucking 14-year-olds.
All right, let's talk. Let's talk about
I'll just say this, but we have our homeland. We have it. We either live here or we die here. There's no going back.
So first off, I'm advocating that you build this within your homeland. So there's no reason. Like, I'm not saying let's all move to Spain, or I'm not saying us, because obviously everyone in this group seems to be from completely different countries. So I'm not advocating that you go to a different homeland. But let's talk about the alternative to attempting to form these sorts of communities. So essentially, you're putting all of your eggs in the basket of the alt-right growing to something that we can either take over the government through through political means, or you just you do a putsch, whatever it is. And you talk about LARPing. It's like, so your choices are take over politics politically, A, take over politics and government through force, B, or C, you create some sort of group that's able to survive through the collapse. As everything collapses, as everything degenerates, then C, you have that. So, and I'm not even saying, don't attempt to take over things politically and such, but this is the backup. So, you've got your group, you've got your land, you've got your 500 people in Wales and nice farmland that's, defensible and everything's good. And then at the same time, you can pursue political means. So what's your plan?
Think about the neocons now.
Yeah.
The neocons were always tiny, but they were always able to, because they did enough culture jamming and were able to present themselves as a very serious intellectual movement to effectively take over the US, right? Now, whatever, there's nepotism and such. But, why would that not work for us?
That's great.
We just need to look like we're... we don't need to be in charge ourselves for our ideas to be in charge.
I agree with you, and that's a great strategy. But what's the backup if it doesn't work? What's the backup if we keep on the path that we're on at the moment?
Die. Frankly, this requires... Okay, let me ask you a question now. What percentage of people... Let's say we need 50 people for this community, right?
Yep.
What percentage of people will join this community in a given country?
Probably a very low percentage. That's the whole point, is that you're able to build this, you're able to survive with a small amount of people.
But why not just...
Okay, I'm in Stemsburg now. Let's say 0.003% of a country. You know.
Probably even less than that. I mean, that's thousands. You don't even need thousands for this to work.
I don't see why you don't form communities within existing cities. Like we have in every province in the Netherlands have our own little groups, and we coordinate around that. I don't think there's a necessity to start whole new communities. Also, there's no space here anyway. But yeah.
Well, first off, I'd say that's a form of, 5PT itself in terms of forming those communities, and I mean, essentially, that's the beginnings of the Hezbollah model of creating a society within a society. I mean, 5PT is Hezbollah. It's creating a society within a society,
and it comes with the added benefit of having quite literally the framework with which Jews operate.
I thought that was the whole point of his political theories. So just basically become a ruthless diaspora.
I live way out in the middle of nowhere in the west of Ireland. I mean, really and truly, very rural area. I have seen hippies come here and try to establish themselves, and only the very, very, very wealthy carried on, and they completely abandoned all of their ideology once the going got tough. I do not see the wealth or the resilience enough in the alt-right for this to work. I mean, if you don't have a girlfriend, everyone who doesn't have a girlfriend should not be allowed to advocate for this. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, essentially, what I would say is if you can get a remote job, I won't name the industry, but I work in an industry where remote working is pretty viable. So you don't need to be so remote that there's no, you're not like an hour away from Asda or whatever. But if you've got a decent remote job, you'd be able to earn money and kind of live out the way. But yeah.
All right, so I have a village in Portugal. I'll give you the address, and you can move there if you want. You can start this project.
No, I want to do it in Wales, man.
But that's such a cop-out. I mean, there is simply, the way I see it, there is quite simply not enough dedicated people to do that. 90% of people in the alt-right, at least, are just playing a game on the computer, okay? And they'll drive for an hour, or they'll even drive for 3 hours, or they'll get on the bus for 4 hours. But, I mean, no one is going to move to live with a bunch of fucking spurgs.
That's true. I second that.
Forming ideological communities is always a risk, and in this case, it's because we're dealing with right-wing people, supposedly at least. It's doubly stupid. I am thoroughly unimpressed by this. Let's turn into a diaspora nation thing.
Okay.
Again, there's also the issue of Northern Ireland. Now, obviously, we're not planning any terrorism, but well, actually, fuck it. Let's just assume that if we are planning terrorism, because
there's no reason to. You'd stay pretty legal. There's no.
Well, look at National Action, ban for a meme. I mean, the fact that it's an ideologically founded community is what it seems to be what made the more left-wing, the less well-run left-wing militias and some of the unionist militias in Northern Ireland in the 70s so ripe for MI5 infiltration. It seems that, if you can't, for lack of a better, I hate to say this, but I think it's a lot easier to shoot some fucking people than it is to found a town.
You don't even need to found a town. It's literally just buying houses near each other. You can take over an existing town. You just pick an area that's got decent people in it, and then as the shit hits the fan, as countries get worse, you just knock on doors and say, listen, you don't even need to tell them who you are. You don't need to have a name for your community. It's just a bunch of like-minded people moving to a, roughly similar geographic region, for the purposes of survival. And I disagree that it's anything like the Jewish model, because the Jewish model is to move to other people's nations and subvert them. This is just, move to a location. And
I think I like the Jewish model.
So people do not leave when the going gets rough. Again, Ireland in the Yugoslavia in the 90s, Ireland in the 60s, Russia in the mid-90s as well. People do not leave. People will put up with amazing levels of atrocities. They just simply do not leave these places.
All right, so UK okay, let's fast forward like 10 years, yeah? So the the rates of diversity is going to be way higher, and also we're probably going to hit, financial crises and such, where the the NHS isn't getting paid for, the welfare bills out of control, welfare's being cut, and housing benefits and stuff's being cut. London gets worse and worse and worse. Right now, you've got stabbings and loads of crazy shit happening all the time. But let's imagine that this gets amplified with, the demographics getting worse and money getting scarcer. Then at that point, would you think that middle class white people that live in London are going to be open to potentially moving out of London if they meet somebody who who has got, an option and for them?
Well, they're moving out anyway. I mean, I don't see what's strictly. Okay, moving a few 100 miles doesn't seem me as. I mean, it seems you're defining all community building as 5 PT. Is that? I mean,
yeah, that's
and if
pretty
you're
much what it sounds like to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the fifth political theory, it gets the metaphorical foot in the door and puts the word diaspora in there. And diaspora is the idea that you're exiled from your homeland. That's what happened to the Jews. The Romans burnt their fucking temple to the ground, so they had to move somewhere else. And this, I mean, I hate to be that guy, but this sounds like awfully sounds like defeatism to me. Like, oh, yeah, well, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. No, we're preparing, and networking is a part of that.
On the other hand, the idea of like taking over a country sounds good to me. Let's all move to Norway or Finland.
All right, okay. I think I might need to do some more reading on this, and I'll get back to you.
I don't think there's anything particularly either compelling or resilient about the alt-right sort of meme complex. I mean, there is literally. I'm not normally the guy to say, haha, alt-right is gay, haha, but I can definitely imagine people defending fucking pederasty if we ever get big, you know? How do we stop the 5 PT town becoming Kekistan?
Typically, whenever you call out, whenever, part of the creed is to speak truth about the JQ, that sort of, I think that usually keeps out those sorts of people.
Well, lots of people are racist, you know? I don't see how hating Jews, that's not a high bar to set, dude. Lots of people hate Jews.
Does that mean that every Muslim who shouts that the Holocaust never happened on the street, does that mean they're all welcome too? No, of course not. And I know that you don't mean that. That's a silly straw man. However, drawing up arbitrary ideological guidelines for who gets in and who doesn't, I don't think that's going to work at all. I mean, a society is an ethnic construction, and what you're trying to do here is, build a society within a society, and you're trying to build up an ideological community. Okay, but can you point to a single instance where this has worked to the extent that it has actually produced any kind of positive results?
Lebanon.
So
what, like
the Muslims taking over Lebanon, or?
You mean the Lebanese civil war? Because they're not taking over the government. Yeah, so Hezbollah. So you're okay. So you want to squat in a cave, right? That's the future of the white race. I think I'm done.
All right, guys. No. I concede that. Yeah, I haven't properly thought this through. So
hold on. What's wrong with living in a cave? I kind of like the primitivist approach.
I'm living in a cottage right now. It's made of limestone. Okay. Good to see you've been convinced, I guess. You can stay on, I guess. Is there anyone who wants to join? How does the Spurg chat think? Okay, Spurg chat's not loading for me.
The chat has been somewhat debating what we've been saying, but none of them have offered to join.
Oh well. Everyone.
Come on.
Oh God, guys, so many people offered to come on. Thank you for being here. What's your name, Martin? That's a lot braver than pretty much everyone who's been talking shit to me.
Yeah, I feel like I made a fool of myself.
No, don't worry.
I didn't read up. Yeah, it was a while. It was like a couple of weeks that I read the whole of 5PT, and I was like, yeah, this sounds great. I'm
Yeah,
still not
no, I
completely
get that, like,
convinced that
too.
it's not a bad idea, but
I don't think immunity building is a bad idea, but I don't think you should necessarily political theory.
There's a problem with scale. That I mean, that you're simply the size of your European country is not large enough to. No matter how compelling you have, you're only going to attract what 0.0000, let's say 5% of your country at absolute maximum to live in your
There's that,
commune.
and then there's the fact that this is a very American ideology. Like 20% of adult Americans will have moved between states one time in their life, and about 8% of Europeans ever move away from their country. So they're a lot more rooted as well. So with that much, that's prepared to move to places.
Yeah.
so the backup plan is just go live in a woods if the shit hits the fan and we're not ready.
I mean, I don't really see the shit hitting the fan in a huge manner. I mean, look at the US. That was, I mean, compare us to the US, but they're still just over 65% white, just underneath that. I mean, with Trump swinging back, I frankly think the resources dedicated to a backup plan of that scale, I just think it's simply not worth it.
So are you guys anticipating a collapse, or are you seeing the Brazil model as kind of what might happen?
Yeah, I mean, think of how fucking awful. Think about all the absolutely horrific shit that's happened across Europe in the last 200 years. And there was no collapse. I mean, look up a graph of like population of Ireland or population of Poland or population of the Baltic states. People will literally be machine gunned in the fucking roads before there's a collapse.
A third of the population can die in an age before electricity. I mean, think of the Black Death. A third of the population can die within one generation, and there's no collapse.
But in all of those times, people were a lot more sparsely populated, and people knew how to just about survive and live off the land and such. Now, if there was a collapse, let's say hyperinflation or some sort of something hit the food supply, then everyone lives completely on top of each other in most cities, and there's not nobody knows how to frigging live off the land anymore. So we haven't had a collapse in this sort of day and age, other than places like Venezuela and stuff, and I imagine they still get food aid from other countries.
Yeah, and I think you have to compare this sort of situation more with ethnic conflicts in the past, like Turks versus Armenians, Yugoslavia. Those places did genuinely have collapses. Like when it's an intra-racial conflict, the collapse is less likely to happen.
But the thing is that those are
Ireland had a population of 9 million or 8.5 million in 1840. I mean, and it fell down to just over 3 million. I mean, there have been collapses like this in Europe. I mean, for one is that there is a huge safety valve in that people can leave and people will leave. But I mean, the fact is that people are not going to be, even if this collapse comes, people are not going to go off and live in the woods, or live in this town.
We don't even have any woods.
Yeah. I mean, for one, I don't believe a collapse is going to happen in that sense. I just cannot imagine a force that could, draw a line around the European city and say no food.
Other than the government itself.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, in a scenario where they would do that, I mean, is the government even going to be effective?
So what about we hit like 30% white, and then nobody's paying enough taxes to support anything,
Well, there's going to be an actual hot war before that happens. You know what happens when the Muslim population hits roughly 51%? Precisely
Yeah,
what
we're
happened
gonna
in
balconize.
Lebanon. It's going to turn into a hot war.
The thing is,
we have this. It's balkanization.
It's not that simple though, because
Country is going to explode.
Because you know you've got multiple different ethnic populations, so it's not like it's one versus the other. I mean, you've got blacks, Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus, Asians, loads of different. So it's I don't see how the sides would work. I guess that's my thing. Like
the sides work in the way that there's an oversupply of Sunni Muslims financed by Saudi Arabia flooding into Europe. And as soon as the demographics are in their favor, or they think that they are the majority, they're going to start shooting people. That's how they work. That's how they've operated since the 7th century.
So do you reckon we're going to end up with a bunch of Sikhs and Shia on our side?
The Sikhs are probably going to pick whites if it ever comes down to that.
And how do the blacks play into this? The non-Muslim blacks.
This is starting to sound like that in Bruges scene where they're asking the midget. So what about that race war? Who's siding with who?
Yeah, the specifics of the race war I cannot tell you, but what I can tell you is that we're not going to get to a situation where Germany and France are just barely 30% white. It's going to go hot before that.
I mean, I don't even think it needs to go hot. I just think it needs to be a credible threat of it going hot. Like, I mean, these people are here for 2 generations, maybe 3, and you'll hear the pro-immigration advocates flat out say they're coming here for a better life. We just need to. I mean, if their life becomes measurably worse, especially as the countries they're from continue to develop, they're just going to go back. Like the Japanese diaspora in Brazil, they're just going to go back if shit hits the fan. I mean, none of our problems seem particularly permanent.
So you think the welfare is going to run out and then people will just start moving home?
I think a part of it would, but other parts would try and assert dominance.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously the more entrenched diasporas are going to stay. Vast majority of these people get paused just as much as anyone else when they come here.
I heard there's a massive issue in the Muslim population in the UK that the women are getting really highly educated more than the men, and then they don't respect the blokes and they can't find husbands. So you've got these 30-year-old hijabi girls that are not they're not getting married and stuff. So their birth rate's going down.
Yes, well, they're living in a poisonous environment called modernity, so they get poisoned. That's natural, but there's simply too many of them for enough of them to get poisoned severely enough for that to be a real factor, I think.
Well, this is within the Pakistani community, but within the Somali and community, they're still having loads of kids.
Somalis are not intelligent enough to get high educations.
Yeah.
They have an average IQ of 70. But the same phenomenon happens in the Netherlands, actually, with Moroccan and Turkish women getting higher educated than the men. But I do believe that they still get married and have kids.
I mean, I just think specifics of the race war is kind of useless LARPing. And I mean, the fact is I mean, I just don't see a scenario occurring where we completely totally lose control of the government. I mean, we live under a caliphate or whatever. I don't think they have the agency for that, frankly. I think we'll just see a balkanization before that. Everyone is muted except for me. Why is that?
So I was messing about my mic.
Yeah, I muted him.
So what? If you were to put, if you put money on the year when a big sort of happening that would have influenced population levels, i.e., people move back or a war breaks out or such, what would you put money on as being the next, the year that things change?
I would say maybe 2030, possibly even 2040. And I don't even think it could be as much a happening as much as sort of the rug being pulled out from underneath it. I mean, all this pause receives colossal amounts of government funding. People are getting very sick of it. We just basically need to evangelize and collapse by itself. It's called degenerate for a reason. It's behaviors that reduce people's tolerance for a complex society. I mean, eventually it's just going to fall away. I don't necessarily see there being a war or
That's a really optimistic look, though. I mean, I guess
it is, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like far more afraid that like.
Oh, I'm quite convinced that there's going to be a war. It's already to the point that 50% of some cities here are non-white. This isn't going to end peacefully because they won't let it happen peacefully. They are definitely going to go for violence. The terrorist attacks are just the first steps towards outright open guerrilla warfare. At least that's what I think.
I mean, I guess it's a country by country issue. I just do not see. I mean, I can only speak about Ireland. I cannot advocate any degree of accelerationism or anything other than working within the channels, because every time that the Irish government has ever, including the UK, has ever lost a degree of control, what's followed it is way, way fucking worse. I mean, I really do think we can get this from within the system. I mean, I would totally be okay with racist Bernie Sanders, guys. I'm sorry. And put it that simply, but
do you mean Jeremy Corbyn?
More racist.
He only has a problem with Jews.
Yeah.
What do you think about Macron? Talk. Yeah, I don't understand, why is Macron sort of going race realist regarding Africa?
He's not.
He's not.
I mean,
he's just being autistic again.
He's a Nick Land techno-commercial GDP. You know, I mean, it doesn't take. You don't have to be incredibly fucking racist to say, but Africa's fucked, yo.
Africa is fucked, and honestly, it's our own fault because we keep giving them food and medicine.
So, what do you see happening in Africa eventually?
I have no idea.
They'll eat each other.
Do we stop giving food and such?
Yes. Or... Yeah, we have to. We have to absolutely stop increasing their populations.
I agree with you, but when do you think we might stop? What brings about that change in understanding and
culture?
Yeah.
Everything for the alt-right has culture. We have to change culture.
Yeah, I mean, we're fundamentally losers, and going the cultural route is the attack route of losers, basically.
I wouldn't say the losers, but the weaker party, like
the underdog,
how Alinsky describes it.
Like, that's the only vector we have. We have to focus purely culturally, and we can do it. I mean, there's a referendum tomorrow on fucking stop giving free money to Africa and stop letting the WAPs in. We'd win it. Is there anyone who disagrees with that, or?
No, yeah, we definitely win it. But how do you get to that?
I mean, I genuinely believe that if the EU were to have an actual democratic parliament system operating, we could win.
I don't see necessity for that. I really think it's cultural change. Like, you have to remember, like, the Netherlands controlled like 10% of the world's surface, the Brits 25%. At the height of our power, we were completely independent. We had really much lower technology. The only thing holding us back is our own mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And, them.
Even them. I feel focusing on the JQ too much kind of, I feel it kind of. I mean, I feel it's sort of a safety valve. Ah, it's the Jews. Well, yeah, who cares? You know, what are you still? What are you going to do? I feel it's sort of a pointless purity test for people who are, you know, who use the alt-right as a game they play on the computer.
Who's paying you to say that?
I can see that.
You know, like,
but
I'm sorry, Colonel Moishe. I know I'm letting Mossad down.
I agree.
A shekel for the guy.
I agree on the whole that focusing on Jews for now is completely counterproductive, and I personally don't really talk about the issue either. But
Now, granted,
you know,
Jewish
ignoring the
population
issue
has
is
doubled in the last 5 years, so I will have to be more publicly anti-Semitic now.
yeah, you know, you're gonna get shit for this, dude.
Yeah, I know. Well, whatever. All the people who were giving me shit before, they're all pretty fucking quiet now for some reason.
Well, the Daily Show wouldn't have got, you know, to the point where it's got without the merchant memes and Oy veying and such.
No, yeah. I mean, they sort of discovered that as they went along. Like, I would by and large agree with the Kevin McDonald culture of critique pieces, but I mean, still, that's not. I mean, knowing this shit is not a substitute for doing anything. You know.
So what do you
There's lots of
advocate?
people who,
Okay, right. So if you want to talk about,
you know,
if you want to talk about like practical stuff, let's talk about what we can do as groups and
yeah,
individuals.
exactly. Let's actually answer that question in the Spur chat from Fire Charades.
I can't.
What is Erkenbrand's model
Right.
to influence Dutch politics?
Right.
Fortune on
See,
culture
the
or
thing is,
politics?
I can say some things, but if I say too much, then basically, well, probably nobody listens to this anyway. But still, I'm going to take that risk. What we basically do is we try to get involved with elections and with culture. So what we do is we try to infiltrate institutions, and I'm not going to get more specific than that. And we do things involving, you know, publishing our own writing, infiltrating.
Are you trying to infiltrate video games journalism?
No, I actually advocate the gassing of all video games. Video games are very degenerate, sir. You should not play them. Although, actually, if you can produce an actually good alt-right video game that explains our positions, that would be a good propaganda tool. But then I don't really see how you could make a very interesting game out of, like, reading Evola or something.
Okay, whatever. Stop talking about fucking video games. It's a meme.
Yes. So
Right.
what we do is basically we try to
So-
recruit people who have some means of influencing the culture, like lobbyists, journalists, and so on. Or we try to get our people in those places. That's basically what we do.
And do you approach them in real life? Is this emails? Like, what's...
Wherever you happen to find them. Sometimes you know someone, sometimes you meet them online. In real life, it depends. Sometimes they come to you.
And what's the so essentially, are you like pitching them cold, like, you know, they don't know anything, and you're just like, hey, listen to this? Or what's the, you know, are you literally red pilling them from zero, or how do you go about it?
No, you try and find people who are already red pilled. Trying to red pill someone from zero is a very long and arduous process that is not really worth the time investment. You're better off grabbing one of your guys and getting him in a position that has influence.
Mm-hmm.
I see. Well, I guess as well as journalists and people that are influenced in the media, it'd be good to go after people who got money, you know, venture capitalists and
I actually would say that it's a good idea to start businesses and start running a parallel economy. I had a discussion about this earlier in the week, and the idea would be that we set up a bunch of things that are staple products like clothing, spices, toothpaste, stuff like that, and we just make web shops for that, and it's all owned by alt-right people. And I guess video games would be a product too. And so, you know, your money is going to alt-right people, so you're creating a parallel economy where your money is not going to mega corporations. But that needs extensive planning and work to get that in any kind of way running, and you need to have cooperation with like the bigger sites and so on.
You could hopefully avoid tax as well doing that.
Well, you can avoid tax as the company, but you can't avoid tax as the consumer.
I see.
All right. I'm sorry, Martin, but you're making some kind of background noise a bit.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, do you want to Okay, so in the interim, a guy's posted now, you can't set out to avoid Jews. They make it about them. It makes you look weak. I don't really know how to respond to that because I don't really know what you're trying to say there, dude. But I mean, I'm not setting out to avoid them. I'm just saying that, you know, you have to act beforehand. You can know lots of shit. You will eventually have to do something, like, or whatever the fuck. I mean, lots of people fucking hate Jews. Again, it's not a big deal. Like, I mean, it strikes me as it strikes me as a pointless litmus test. Playing games, like, for example, Baked Alaska. Now, sure, that guy was doing drugs. That guy's been doxing people. That guy's been acting fucking awfully. But, I mean, all the people are focusing on fucking, like, these hating Jews enough. Like, who fucking cares?
It's not about hating Jews. It's about
I know you're being woke, whatever.
But what I'd say the benefit to it is you know, you've got somebody from zero who is, you know, just starting to wake up and, you know, realize that there's something wrong in the world, and, you know, sure, you've red pilled them on race and IQ and race is real and all that sort of stuff. I think it makes it interesting, and it gives an understanding of why things are going like this, and I think it radicalizes people in a good way. You know, it gets people, you know, geared up that and understanding that there is a monolithic, you know, entity that is fighting against us. Now, yes, you know, you can go the Alex Jones route, say it's the globalists or it's the Illuminati, but when you realize it's this Jewish-led establishment, and I think it just helps, and I think it helps bring people together as well. Like, I think it helps bring us together in that we have this common thing of being woke to the JQ. I don't hate Jews, but I'm very much woke to the JQ, and I think it makes. I mean, this is pretty much the definition between alt-right and alt-right is. Alt-right is woke to the JQ, and, well, I guess and race being real, but you know, that is a litmus test, and I don't think there's a bad thing about litmus tests. But
oh yeah, like, I mean, look, if someone's not somewhat on board with it, sure, but I mean, people, by virtue of it being fringe and edgy, what happens is that it's used as, it's people who don't like this stuff are let in, who are, you know, doing drugs and whatever, supporting pedos are let in. Okay, well, obviously not that extreme. I don't want to sound like that, but, you know, people who should not be allowed hang around with us are, by virtue of them being woke on the JQ. But people who really fucking, you know, but they're only attacked for the JQ, like in the case of Baked Alaska.
if it wasn't for the JQ,
I mean, yes, okay, I'm not cucking on the JQ, okay, dude. I know there's two. I mean, obviously, I can't say too much because I'm on a, you know, one of those jurisdictions. But
the JQ is what kept Milo out of the alt-right and kept him in the alt-right. I mean, you know,
exactly. Why the fuck was the fact that he was not a fucking faggot enough to do that?
So we have an Aussie shitposter with us now, I believe.
Oh, fantastic.
Mr. Elf, please respond.
He's not the first one today having microphone problems, I guess.
Oh, what a shame.
Too bad.
Well, he's muted.
He's muted himself. He's muted himself. I guess his mic isn't working.
Okay. Well, are there any events that we should talk about that aren't involved with your news cooking?
Ah, well, hang on. You have your own Erkenbrand conference coming up. Do you want to tell us about that?
I can tell you about that. So, we have a conference coming up in October, the 14th of October to be specific. This will be a mainly a very big networking event. There will be 6 speakers, which are Millennium Woes, Jared Taylor, Greg Johnson, Gregory Hood, Golden One, and Robert Stoikers, who will be delivering a speech in Dutch. Then besides them, there will be a number of people who will not be speaking, but who will be attending and who you can purchase books from or talk to, like Guillaume de Rocher, David Yorkshire, some people from Golden Dawn, Emile Durand from Countercurrents, a number of people from all over the place. In combination, if you are from the USA and you'd like to make this a week trip, the Scanza Forum will be on the 21st of October, so you can attend 2 conferences in 1 week if you'd like to, and make it a Europe trip, I guess.
Sweet.
So there's that. There's that.
And we will find someone from the Scanza forum for next week.
Oh, I can get you in touch with someone. Anyway, anything you guys from the news? Anything involving the alt-right that's been happening lately?
No news. Has our Australian friend fixed his microphone?
No, he's gone. I think he's AFK. To be honest, he's not here.
Oh well.
He's gone.
Yeah. There you go. Oh.
So maybe we can. Yes.
Here's a question in the chat by Saga. How do you see the cultural influence from the USA on European nations? Cultural influence is bigger than the one of the kebabs in Europe. We are shifting towards Western culture.
I agree. America is the vehicle through which Satan enters the world.
Absolutely.
And the devil is very tempting. All jokes aside, I do like that they've brought a degree of... I love the kitschiness. I love Americana, but... frankly, America arrived in California and then began to rot traveling east, rather. And I'm sorry, America has to die. It's too old.
In its current form, it can't exist anymore.
Yeah, well, you're in luck. The path of empire is nearly complete. And to answer the question, comparing American and Muslim influence culturally in Europe, Islam does not speak to the European mind. Europeans, by and large, don't convert to Islam. It's alien to them, and those that do, they usually go for Sufism, which is one of the milder ones that doesn't even require daily prayers, as far as I know. It's a form of religiosity and metaphysical objectivism, or as it's more commonly known, fundamentalist religiousness, that it just doesn't appeal to Europeans. It doesn't appeal to Europeans or white people or
was Eveler into Sufism or something?
Yeah, Sufism. I think that's a form of Islam that's from Persia. It might be wrong with that.
No, I was saying, was Eveler into it or something? I remember him saying something in somewhere.
Yeah, I think he was.
Anyway,
I gotta say, that's not my experience. I know one guy who converted to Islam, and he's a fucking alt-right fucking spurge.
Yeah, well, the retards always do.
Yeah, and everyone else I know is an ugly woman who got married to some fucking kebab, and is invariably probably with the fucking Muslim Brotherhood by this rate.
I have to say, I do notice occasionally just white women with blue eyes and niqabs here and there.
Yeah.
Well, women and here and there. It's not as if there is a wave of conversion. That's what I'm saying. That Islam's cultural influence is not very great because Islam does not have cultural artifacts that the West wants, or the people in the West want.
Yeah, here, exactly. It's not. White people do not integrate into non-white cultures like that. Invasive non-white cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But American culture, on the other hand, is easily digestible, contains lots of sugar and fats and all manner of nastiness, but it's easy to consume, it's carefree, and you can just twiddle away
It's
with...
kitschy.
yeah, well...
It's kitschy, yeah.
In part, yes.
Which I don't think that's the wrong thing, but...
Well, here and there is kitschy, but it's also... Well, it's...
familiar.
Yeah, it's easy to consume. It's something that you can immerse yourself in without actually being involved in anything.
It's the same one word. It's white, or it's part at least.
Well,
Yeah.
it's white.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I wouldn't go that far. It's white. It's very
No,
nice.
the cultural influence of America today is indeed white in many parentheses, because the cultural influence that seeps over to Europe it's Hollywood. It's American popular culture, and we get...
I think we're talking of many Americas here. I'm sort of thinking of...
Yeah, but if we're talking about America as a cultural force, the old America of H.P. Lovecraft and Angel Mencken, which is, I guess, these days represented by dinosaurs like Pat Buchanan, has no cultural sway over Europe, because that America is viewed as the backwards Midwest conservative type of thing, which has an incredibly bad
I would
rep
disagree.
in Europe.
There's a huge amount of American redneck LARPing going on in the rural parts of Europe.
Yes, I know. I'm one of those people. But in terms of what guides the what are the cultural artifacts that the mainstream culture, that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the underground. We're talking about the forces that shape the minds of normies. Isn't that right?
Okay. I guess it's important to make distinction between America and Zog. You know?
Yeah, and America is a wonderful place. It's also a terrible place, but it has produced a great variety of absolutely wonderful things. Make no mistake about that.
Nukes,
However,
hamburgers, driveways, drive-ins. Yeah, sure.
Guns.
No, the best guns are still German.
Yeah, but
no one gets to use them though.
Yeah, but my point there was that America doesn't only produce shit; they also produce a lot of good stuff. It's just that the stuff that we get over here is the very, very filtered, politically correct version of America, which is not a very nice America to invade your living room.
I think what's very important here about understanding the history of America and the history of the 20th century is that at the beginning, at 1914, America was still an incredibly pastoral nation. It only had, it consumed a very, I don't remember the exact number, but a vanishingly small amount of the world's steel production and consumption was in America. But because of their free export policy, by 1919, they had controlled 37% of the world's steel consumption. So America was wrenched from a rural, pastoral pioneer culture into a more settled European lifestyle in a matter of decades.
They were also,
if you will, it lurched straight from expansionism to decadence.
Yeah,
and I think that's what America is.
Yeah, the step from Teddy Roosevelt to the disaster of 2 seasons of Woodrow Wilson is kind of what describes that. I mean, before Woodrow Wilson and World War I mean, Woodrow Wilson is the American president who got elected under the slogan "Keep you out of the war," and then took America to war. Yeah. Before the era of Woodrow Wilson, America's military was, I think, less than 200,000 men. Oh. Yeah, and after World War I, over 4 million. So they were pushed into this position of massive military strength, massive industrial capability.
But on European money.
Very quickly.
Yeah, with other people's money. It wasn't an organic development. So they went from, they lurched from pastoralism, and they and then straight into decadence. And if you look at people in the 50s and the 40s, they look like a different race to modern Americans. They look.
You're breaking up here.
They're, higher. I think that sort of cultural sheer is the key to understanding America and the key to understanding Zog.
I think you broke up a bit there.
Fuck, am I okay?
I can hear you, but you were a bit choppy there.
Okay, where will I start again from?
You said that the Americans from the 50s and 40s look like a different race. And that's...
They look like a different race. And in a Spenglerian sense, they are a different race. Cultural sheer. That is the key to understanding Zog. How it was sort of initially, how America was so sort of wholesome, I guess you could say, even if it was a Gilded Age. And then he slid into the boomer generation,
Yeah, and a point that bears mentioning is that a lot of the northern cities, or more northern cities like Chicago and Detroit, didn't originally have these black populations. They were forcibly moved there during the Second World War. It was a state-planned forced relocation of what was essentially the only available labor force to power the American war machine. And the ethnic conflicts or racial conflicts, whichever you prefer in this case, that rose from that were very nasty. Very nasty.
Hang on. I'm going to portray how much of a cuck I am, but in Thomas Sowell's book, Ethnic America, he seems to claim that he claims that the American blacks were very urbanized. Even going as far back as 1860s, they started becoming increasingly urbanized.
Oh yes, they were urbanized, but they were forcibly moved from the south to the places like Detroit and Chicago, where they hadn't been before until the 1940s. So the American government forcibly moved the blacks into those inner cities.
All right.
Their overtaking of those cities was not an organic process. It was just the state moving labor around.
All right. So here's the question. Okay, here's a good question from XDDD881. How much longer are you guys giving Burgerland?
Good question.
I'll give it about 5 minutes as soon as I get my hand on the nukes. Give me the nuclear code to put in.
I think Burgerland will last well into the 2060s. I think it is a remark. I think Burgerland's already dead fundamentally. Sorry, guys.
Let's be honest. We're all already fundamentally dead. We have all read Spengler, right?
Yeah.
It's already too late.
I think we just have to stand guard until the very end.
2+1 chambers of the U.S. system. I think that's an incredibly resilient system and will last
guys,
for.
Just think back to before this. Past presidential election. Think back to how black-pilled we were about the future. Think back to 2015, where there was no Trump. There was no Trump candidacy. There was a huge influx of refugees into Europe that was just starting. If you have gotten this question, how much longer do you give the American empire? Back then you wouldn't have. At least for me, I wouldn't have given it more than 10 years, 12 years tops. And I think a lot of people have lost perspective because we've had some minor victories, but it's still fundamentally completely corrupted the society, and the demographics are still fucked, and the people are still consumerist, ruthless bugmen. It's become worse, not better. And I still hold on to my prognosis that it's not going to last very much longer.
Yeah, well, America is it's further into decline in many ways than Europe is. However, there's more energy there. There's much more potential for change. Things can change much more radically in the United States.
Definitely. I mean, so politically, what's it called? Polarized in the country already that is hopeless. There's just one economic collapse or one famine or one breakdown of infrastructure away from complete civil war, and that it's constant under the surface. You know, all civil wars start with slowly escalating political violence. No civil war starts with an on switch like that Spordo comic where he flips the switch and it's
Islamic communism.
Islamic communism and the boot starts marching down the street. No, it's never like that. It's always it was in Finland, it was in Germany, it was in Spain, it was in Venezuela. All the civil wars that have been start with a long period of slowly escalating political violence. It starts with punching Nazis is basically how it starts. And then after that comes the killings and the assassinations, the mobilizations into different guards for the Reds and the Whites and so on. It's when you see militias forming voluntarily on both sides, you know that it's coming, and it's with every civil war up until the last day of peace. People will still be completely illusioned and think, oh yeah, civil war is never going to happen. It can't happen. We're not going to have a war. Just as the people thought in Yugoslavia, just as they thought in Finland, just as they thought in Germany. Oh no, why would there be a war? I mean, there's not a war now, so I can't imagine it. And then it happens. Then it happens and people die. And I think it's an inevitable fact of history that in the situation we're in now, the dominoes can only fall in one direction, and it's a question of time.
There's two fantastic poems by...
Oh, cutting out there again, Phineas.
Fantastic poems by whom?
Yeats, W.B. Yeats.
Ah.
Yeah, no, one is... Sorry, if I cut out?
Yeah.
Anyways, one is called September 1913, and the next is called Easter 1916. About... Well, they're not sick. They were written in the Times as told by their titles, and they're about the development of the Irish revolutionaries from basically LARPers in the woods and the middle class being a bunch of money-grubbing fucks in 1913 to the colossal open street battles in 1916. Okay, this shit happens really quickly.
Yeah, I think the modern man is through his education that has come after. I mean, if you've been educated after the Cold War kind of ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union, the model of history that you're fed is well, I think it's one of the most dangerous things that the states in Europe and the United States have done to their peoples is that they've taught their citizens to think of history as a story that ended the moment we defeated communism in a great patriotic war that wasn't actually fought as a war. And since that conflict is over, we have now solved every ideological question in the world. And now all you have left to do is to do some shopping and visit the gay disco. So the idea that war is an inevitable part of human interaction hasn't entered into the equation of the education of many, many, many people. Or just the fact that humans can be utterly unpredictable. Humans can be mind-bogglingly cruel to one another. Essentially, at the flip of a coin, things can turn on their head, and governments can fall. People can be shot in the streets, and violence, or as Robinson Jeffers puts it, the bloody sire is still the source of all the world's values.
Right. So when is it going to start? And how?
That's just it. Nobody can tell when it happens. everybody can be prepared for it. Everybody can know it's gonna happen. But when it happens, it's gonna come so sudden that none of us are fully gonna understand what's going on when we're in the moment. No,
Yes.
When we're in the moment, we're not gonna realize just what kind of historic event we're gonna be in.
Well, you can, be a victim to circumstance, or you can be the one to cause it.
Yes, but also remember that if you want peace, prepare for war.
Exactly.
As a joke, of course. As a joke. Any jokes about militias here? It's a satire.
No. I'm not talking about militias. I'm talking about war. We have to keep our military in tip-top condition.
So I was told by Slug from Canada that we should use 5.56 ammo at about 3 cents a piece for this operation.
Why 5.56?
Because it's very common and it's very cheap. And I think
in America.
In America, and I generally don't have. I don't have faith in that small caliber. It can't penetrate shit.
Okay, let's not talk about caliber. Let's talk about
Guaranteed
comments. Has a 5.56 rifle.
Now, honestly, anybody who thinks that the 5.56 is superior to the 7.62 is frankly retarded, and you have no clue what you're talking about. No, I'm being a bit facetious here, but I'm biased, of course, because here what I'm saying is true, at least in Finland, because here you're going to be fighting in forests, and here you need something that can penetrate those trees. A 5.56, that's a child's gun. It's gonna be stopped after 12 centimeters of wood. Yeah, it's not. I don't care if it's not the most common, because it's not the most common here in this country, in this part of Europe. It's in this part of Europe.
We don't have in this country. We don't have military cartridges in large circulation. We just don't.
It's not more common in Finland. It can be like I'm talking from my country's perspective, and that's why I'm so biased, and I can be really narrow, have a very narrow perspective on this thing, because I only think about the day of the prank from my own perspective and my own country's perspective. But of course, the 5.56 could be much more handy, especially in the US and other parts of Europe.
Yeah, in this country, the most common civilian chambering for a firearm, a rifle, is 308, as far as I know.
I thought it was 303.
We don't, definitely not 303.
Oh, wait.
we don't follow
like Second World War.
We don't have Enfields. Which is a bloody
exactly.
I'm messing it up. Yeah.
Yeah, 308. That's the.
Over here it's 5.56 because we use the MG4 and we use the M4 carbine a lot.
Yeah, but we as Finns have done precisely what we've always done. So we've taken a Russian design and un-Russianized it. So we built it with better quality tools and then kind of fixed some of the ergonomy issues.
So basically you guys have AKs.
Yeah.
Just beefed up, better built AKs.
The best AK system is the Finnish RK. It's the most accurate of all the AK systems.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, it's definitely like one thing Finland can say that we've produced. It's not memes and it's not retarded shit posters, but our AK systems truly are like the envy of the world.
Yeah, we did to the AK what we did to the Mosin Nagant.
Yeah.
Now we should discuss the how we are going to supply our militias with RKs.
I wish Valmet still produced those.
Yeah, and we sold the machines that we built, our old version of the RK, we sold those to the Israelis, who used those same machines to machine the Galils. So I think you'll have to go shopping from the merchant if you want some of those machines.
Yeah, that's just it. They saw something that was really good and profitable, so they bought it. They bought us out. It's not like that's Finnish industry in a nutshell. Like we're great innovators, but then we always sell off our patents, and we make like a fraction of the money that we could have made of it. That's the Nokia story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
Nokia
only
was
recently reacquired Nokia, right?
No, it's not Finnish. What Nokia did was an inhuman amount of research and development in mobile phone technology, and there was, I think, from 1997, a concept of a touchscreen phone that kind of actually looks like the Windows 10 phone. All the crazy things that Nokia came up with, buttons on both sides of the screen, sliding screens, all manner of crazy phones, and it all kind of culminated in the touchscreen phone that then became really, really popular, the iPhone. Because Apple didn't do research and development into phones. They realized because they have some very good business noses over there. They realized that, oh, here's the thing that's going to work, since the first touchscreen phones were in the market, and they decided to put their Apple brand on it and make all the bugmen buy their products.
Right, but you're Chinese yourselves, right?
What?
But I thought Finland was already Chinese.
God damn it, we're not Chinese, we're Mongolian. We just periodically invade China.
Oh, my mistake. Right, I think we've kind of devolved a little bit into shitposting, so we can either try and get like something on topic, or since we've been going for about 2 hours, we can end it here if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Spur chat. This is your last chance. Get talking. I'm very fucking disappointed in our crowd, I must say.
Yeah, I tried to shill it too.
Let's go.
Terrible people. You're all terrible people, chat.
Only an Anglo is brave enough.
It seems the Anglos have sabotaged your internet connection there.
So I guess we'll call it in. Thank you very much, Martin, for joining.
Yeah, thanks,
And
Martin.
thank you
You were
for
the
that
only one
Australian
who
guy. Only one. Big fuck you to the guy sending emails to the Proton Mail account saying how Pusher needs to look after me. I don't even think he was joking. Yeah, goodbye everyone. See you next week. Hang up now, Mr. Producer.
Yes, sir. And good night. Come to the Erkenbrand conference or the Skansen forum the week after.